Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Arsalan Farrukh and I teach math and physics. In this video, I will discuss how you can represent data in the form of a pie chart or a histogram. The good thing about this method of representation of data is that even if you have a qualitative data, you can represent that by means of both pie chart as well as histogram. Now, let's first talk about the pie chart. In pie chart, if you are given set of frequencies for each group of data, then you represent it on a circular diagram, and each sector of that particular circle represents each particular category. So what you actually do is that you find out the angle of each sector by individual frequency over sum of frequencies into 360 degrees. 360 degrees because the total angle of a circle is 360. So if I want to represent this particular data, the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to find out the total cumulative frequency. This is coming out to be 54 here. And after finding out the total cumulative frequency, I will find out the angle of each sector, which will be 14 upon 54 into 360 for cricket, and then 13 upon 54 into 360 for football, and so on and so forth. That gets me the angle for each category, and once I have the angle for each category, I can start making a circular diagram. I can set up any radius which is appropriate for me for the available space. And then after doing that, I can draw that first initial line anywhere, and then I'll use a protector to measure an angle of 93 degrees. So once I measure the angle of 93 degrees, I will draw another line at that point, and that will represent the sector for cricket. This line is going to be again now my new reference line for football. So I'm going to put my protector in this particular orientation and see where the angle 87 comes in. So at an angle of 87, I'm going to draw another line which will represent the sector for football. And then I'm going to keep on labeling each sector with its category as well as its angle. Now this line is going to be my reference line. I'm going to put my protector again here, measure an angle of 80 degrees and mark it as hockey. The remaining angle must be 100 degrees, and then I can label it as basketball. You can also make comparative pie charts where you are comparing two sets of data. But there is one thing that you have to make sure, which is that if you have one data of a larger size and the other data of a smaller size, then your comparative pie charts should reflect that difference of frequency in terms of size. So a larger frequency should be a pie chart with a bigger radius, and a smaller frequency should be a pie chart with a smaller radius. So this is a formula that compares the total frequency with the corresponding radii. So the cumulative frequency is directly proportional to the square of the radius. So if you have chosen a particular radius for one cumulative frequency, so you'll put that frequency and that corresponding radius in its place. So if I have this radius, let's say 3.5, and its corresponding frequency is 54. The other radius that I need to find out and its corresponding frequency is 101. So I can rearrange this equation and get myself the radius too, which is coming out to be 4.8 centimeter in this case. So now I make another pie chart whose radius is going to be 4.8 centimeter. And then I'm going to mark the angles of this one as well. Again, for this particular set of data, I'm going to get individual frequency divided by cumulative frequency multiplied by 360 to get their corresponding angles, and draw the sectors at those corresponding angles. So this is how I can make a single pie chart as well as the comparative pie charts of two different data. The other way by which I can represent a qualitative data is basically by means of a bar chart. So if I have a bar chart and I have to represent a particular data, again, this is the same data that I took from before. What I could do is that I can make rectangular bars with the vertical heights matching the frequencies of that particular category. So if I have to make a single bar chart, I'll label one as cricket and I'll make its vertical height equal to 14. And then for football, it's going to be 13. And then for hockey, it's going to be 12, and so on and so forth. You have to make sure that the width of each bar is consistent, and also all of these bars should have gaps between them, and those gaps are also consistent. You can choose the size of the width of the bar as well as the gaps, but you have to be consistent throughout, and the size you will choose will depend on the amount of space that is available to you. But sometimes you may be asked to make a comparative bar chart. So if you're making a comparative bar chart, you have two sets of data, you can make a comparative bar chart as well. But there are two different possible ways in which you can make a comparative bar chart. You probably would want to compare the participation of two schools in cricket, and then the participation of two schools in football, and then hockey, and then basketball. So what you're going to do is that you will keep on making one bar for school A, and right adjacent to that be another bar for school B, and you're going to keep on doing that for these bars. Well, of course, you're going to leave spaces between the pair of bars for different sports, and you will also assign a certain key to represent two different schools. So if you can shade them differently, and you can write down a key right next to it that this kind of shading corresponds to school A and this kind of shading corresponds to school B. You can also make a comparative bar chart in this case, where you might want to compare the participation in each sport for a particular school. So you will have to make 4 bars for school A for each individual sport, and 4 bars for school B for each individual sport. So you can make these vertical bars, their heights will be their corresponding frequencies. You should make equal widths, and all of these vertical bars are for school A, and all of these vertical bars are for school B. To distinguish between these bars and what does each bar represent, you can make a key right next to it, shade them differently, and assign each type of shading to a particular form of sport. So this is a comparative bar chart that compares the participation of 2 different schools in each particular sport. And this is a comparative bar chart that compares the participation of different sports in a particular school. So guys, I hope you found this video useful towards knowing how to make a pie chart, a comparative pie chart, a bar chart, or even a comparative bar chart. If this did help, I would really appreciate if you would give a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. I'll also post the link to the notes in the description.